Okay, the first question was, what are your main goals as an ambassador, an American ambassador to Bulgaria?
Well, I think probably the most important goal for me is in the area of economic growth and development, because I think Bulgaria has all the other elements in place to succeed as an ally and partner of ours, as a member of the European Union. There are some other issues that you all know about better than I do, but none of them are really serious. The serious one is economic, because if there aren't enough jobs, if there isn't enough money for people to live at a decent standard of living, then I think the rest of the effort is going to be very hard to succeed. If the economy is doing better, I think everything else is there with the partnerships and alliances and all the benefits that Bulgaria gets as an EU member. So I want to encourage American investment. I want to encourage investment that brings jobs at good wages, and I want to encourage more trade. I want to encourage free trade between the United States and Bulgaria, which we're working on as part of our free trade agreement, TTIP, which is, we hope in the next few years will happen. And then I want to encourage more contact between Bulgarians and Americans through travel, through exchanges. You all know our summer travel program. It's a very important part of what we do, but it's not enough. I want to do more encouraging university scholarships, including getting more young Americans to Bulgaria. So that's sort of the broad area, but those would be the biggest priorities.
And if you allow me to add one more, you've already achieved a great performance of activity in Bulgaria, being involved in so many things. And the way that I heard you a while ago to present Bulgaria was very impressive, and you're a very passionate advocate of Bulgaria now. So I would inform all of you and all the Bulgarian community that we have already a high bar of somebody who works for Bulgaria, and there's no reason for the Bulgarian community not to follow.
Thanks.
The other question was, what are the major priorities between Bulgaria and the US?
So I think that's a big question, because there are a lot of them. One of them, as I mentioned, is in the economic sphere, getting more trade and investment in both directions. And we're having some success on that, including some major American firms that have invested recently. A lot of American companies moving their back office, their logistics operations to Bulgaria, bringing good jobs. A lot of tech companies doing a lot of investment. So that's really positive. A second one is to support Bulgaria as an ally of the United States at a difficult time when the Middle East is in turmoil, when the whole Black Sea region is unstable, when we've had the Russian annexation of Crimea and occupation of eastern Ukraine, at a time when you've got the migrant crisis, you've got the threat of Brexit today. We'll see how that goes. It's a difficult time, and we recognize that. Plus terrorism, multiple terrorist attacks in Europe this year, thankfully not in Bulgaria. Also, unfortunately, attacks here in the United States as well. So that's the other job I think is fundamental, is to do everything I can to help Bulgaria as an ally and a partner, which includes strengthening cooperation on counterterrorism. It includes strengthening cooperation on information sharing, helping Bulgaria better control its borders. That's an effort that we're working together with our Department of Homeland Security. We just had a visit of our Commissioner of Border Protection. Commissioner Kolakowski was in Sofia a few weeks ago to help see how we can help more with border issues, because Bulgaria clearly has some serious border issues. I think there are other areas culturally. I think I want to do more to help show the best of America to Bulgarians. Unfortunately, since Bulgaria joined the European Union, we've had less money for programs like that, and we're trying to work with our America for Bulgaria Foundation to partner to support cultural programming, bringing American artists and performers to Bulgaria, bringing Bulgarians to the United States. So I want to work on that, and I especially want to focus on the young generation, which is very impressive and very promising, and has lots of opportunities now, but I think we need to do more to connect them with the United States.
You almost touched upon the next question, which was, you have spent many years observing Russia. So would you say that there is a strong amount of Russian propaganda and influence in Bulgaria?
Rather than answer that directly, I think what I'd rather say is what I see my job is trying to support Bulgarians being able to make their own decisions, being able to be a truly sovereign and independent country, and supporting free and independent media so that the citizens of Bulgaria have the information they need to make good decisions. So to the extent that there is intentionally bad information out there, to the extent that there are efforts to influence the decisions that Bulgarians make from outside, that is a cause for concern, but at the same time, I think the answer to it has to be our making a positive effort to support Bulgarians, to help support independent media, which we're doing, and to take a positive approach to it. In other words, not what we're against, but what we should be doing more of.
So you again mentioned the media. In your opinion, are the medias in Bulgaria independent? Was the next question that we received.
So I would say on that, the answer is yes and no. You have free media in Bulgaria because the media can criticize the government without fear of consequences. So obviously very, very different from communist days. But you don't have truly independent media in the sense of the people knowing who is behind the various news organizations, who owns them, what economic interest may be affecting the news coverage. In that sense, they're not independent. So I would say they're free but not independent, and more independence is important. And I think the way you get that is through transparency, through helping the public learn who is controlling which media, and then the public can decide in the marketplace which media they want to watch or read. But it's important that they know if there's an agenda or a particular outside influence. And these days, it's impossible to know. We have no way of knowing at the embassy frequently. You can sometimes guess by how the coverage reads, but that kind of information should be public.
Okay. The question that we received next would be: does Bulgaria seem like a loyal ally to the U.S. in terms of willingness to work with the United States? Have there been any issues in that area?
I would say no issues. I think that's a very strong yes in every respect. On military and security cooperation, Bulgarians fought with us in Iraq and Afghanistan. They're doing peacekeeping with us in Kosovo. They're doing a lot to cooperate on sharing information on terrorism and other threats, transnational threats. We have excellent information sharing, excellent coordination on issues like that. I think on all the important foreign policy issues, we're very much together. So I think certainly Bulgaria has been an ally of ours for 12 years now, and I would find it hard to cite a single example when it was not a great ally.
Thank you for that. What is the main target of American support to Bulgaria? Investment, monetary, or security military? That was the other question.
Yeah, that goes back to the first answer. I think economic is the most important, but we are intensifying our cooperation on security. Our militaries, together with other militaries in NATO, are doing much more in terms of exercises and training. And we have right now on the ground in Bulgaria more than 500 U.S. Armed Forces personnel training and doing exercises with the Air Force, with the Navy, and with the Army. So there is a security component, and that is aimed at ensuring that Bulgaria can defend itself against any threats at a very difficult time in the region and the world. And Bulgarians are very conscious, I think, that by air, Bulgaria is not much more than an hour from the Syrian conflict. So this is very real and very close, and Bulgaria is right to want to strengthen and modernize its military. But that is not number one. I would say number one is economic.
Okay, and once again, just to remind, it's not me questioning you. I'm
Right.
just reading the questions that we have received from the medias. Two more left from those who have been primarily sent to us. Is corruption an issue in the political system? Are you a supporter of the fight between the Bulgarian government and corruption? What are the recommended anti-corruption measures?
Yes, corruption is definitely a problem. I think everybody knows it. We are supporting the efforts of the government and the parliament to take concrete steps. There have been some steps taken that have been positive, but there are many, many more that need to be taken, and I think everybody knows that. I think I would come back to the word transparency as the single most important thing here. The public needs to know what's going on, and then the public, the voters, will decide what to do about it. But if they don't know, then they can't decide. And so shining a light on the problems that exist is the most important tool. And that's something we are helping with. We intend to try to help more with some technical assistance and expertise to share with various agencies. And there's some new agencies being set up also to do that, including the assets forfeiture unit, which for the first time is using that tool, and it's a tool that we have developed in the United States first and foremost, and we are providing advice on that. So that, for example, if you have clear evidence that state funds were stolen and were used to buy a palace on the mountain or on the seashore, you don't need to have a criminal conviction of the person who stole the money in order to take the proceeds back. All you need to do is show that the proceeds were illegally obtained, and it's possible then for the state to expropriate the assets and return that to the treasury, essentially to the people of Bulgaria. In the past, you had to have a criminal conviction first before you could address that. And we have the same problem in the United States, and criminal convictions, as you know, are very hard to get in Bulgaria. The system is not designed to put people in jail. It's designed to give people a good chance of winning the case. So this is very powerful because it's now possible to say to some of the people who've stolen money from the people, we may not end up being able to convict you, but we're going to take as much of the money back as we can because that kind of behavior is unacceptable. So I think that's a very positive step forward. There's been progress made on evasion of customs duties and illegal contraband, especially coming across the Black Sea from Turkey, which is hundreds of millions of dollars a year. On that, on the illegal cigarette smuggling, which has been a huge industry and is being shut down. So these are all positive things, but there's a lot more, and we're prepared to help in any way that we can.
And the last question is a little bit more personal and I hope more relaxed. Would you say that Bulgaria has any special characteristics? And was your transition a smooth one, or were there any issues?
Yes, I would say in terms of special characteristics, there are a lot of positive special characteristics. I've lived and worked all over the world for 31 years, including a lot of time in Eastern Europe. I think positive characteristics I would cite are, first of all, the role of women, which obviously is not sufficiently equal, but nonetheless, compared to many countries in the world, many countries in Europe, in some ways even compared to the United States, it's really quite impressive. In government, in the private sector, the number of strong, successful women is really noteworthy. And it is very interesting when we have meetings with the government, for example, very frequently a majority of the officials in the room are women, and very frequently that includes multiple deputy prime ministers and ministers. But also when we had we have a tech startup group that the embassy sponsors for young entrepreneurs in the tech field. And close to half of these tech entrepreneurs were women. And honestly, you will not find that in Silicon Valley, in California. So that's very positive. Again, I'm not saying there's no sexism, I'm not saying there's no problems, but it's clear that there's something positive there. The second thing, I think, is the lack of extremism. Again, compared to most of Europe, and maybe I would say fairly compared to the United States, there are very few Bulgarians who support extreme or intolerant parties or movements. Obviously there are few, but in the elections the percentage is tiny. It's sometimes 2%, 3%. So I think that's really a positive thing, that the vast majority of Bulgarians are broadly supportive of democracy, not intolerant, sort of, I would say stable, and there's a consensus-based politics for the most part. And at a difficult time, that's really, really important.
Okay, I think that was a good sum up. So we start with other questions if we have.